Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge. I'm John Najarian. My brother Pete Najarian and I will let you know what's going on with Bitcoin, because I remember a lot of people telling us, oh, it's a Ponzi scheme. Well, but that was when it was falling to $16,000. Today, trades through $72,000. So if I can get more of that Ponzi scheme, I'm in. Join us for the Rebel's Edge and we'll break it all down. Bang!
There it is. All right. Well, here we go, man. I'll tell you what, it's a wild ride. It is a wild ride every day in this market, ups and downs and all arounds. The one thing you can count on the last couple of days, the Donald J. Trump media company. Holy crap. That's another huge volume day. You were just pointing that out, John.
Well, and Pete, it traded 117 million shares in the first 2.5 hours today.
It's unreal.
And those shorts, those 14 million shorts, are really feeling the pain here, the burn, as Jesse the Body or the Hulkster Pete would say. I'm banging and hanging, doing those reps and feeling that burn right there, baby.
I'll tell you what, 3 days in a row, though, this thing has been on fire. They've got volume. They've got all of this. And I'm not saying anything political. We're just talking about a stock right now. And it's on fire for sure. And the volumes speak volumes on how much activity is really there.
Yeah, it's one of these situations, Pete, where the stock has a significant catalyst, and it is Donald J. Trump himself, packing Madison Square Garden in the second most liberal city in the United States. CNN saying that it's conceivable he could win the national vote, the popular vote as it's known, not just the swing states to get in via the Electoral College, but the actual total votes cast. That's why that stock is moving like the Pete. It's up double digits every day this week. Yeah. And, when something's moving like that, and last week when it was up 11% on Friday, maybe there is something going on here, and it's not just Joe Rogan, which, by the way, Google, in their infinite wisdom, is trying to block the Joe Rogan and Donald Trump interview. They have hidden it. So if you Google it, you have to actually sort by most views. Otherwise, they put something up with like 700 views that's like, just a cut up version of it. You want the full version? Well, you can follow me because I keep retweeting it, Pete, because the more that people say they're trying to block it, I say, well, here it is. You want to go see it? 3 hours. I don't think Kamala could sit down for 3 minutes, Pete.
I'll tell you what I like today too, John. Good, on a different note, I like your shirt. I'm just pointing out. That's a damn nice shirt because you know what? I kind of like this one too.
It's a little bit like that. Yeah. All right, folks. We're going to dive right into Macro Minute. And Pete and I cover Macro Minute, fantastic futures, stocks, and all that stuff. Today, I'm going to say we're somewhat waiting for the non-farm payroll. That will come out this Friday because as we turn over a calendar and go to November, we will be getting the non-farm payroll. The Federal Reserve will pay attention to that, but they won't be doing anything with interest rates till after the election. So the election is next Tuesday, November 5th. Go out and vote, folks. What do you got for unusual today, Pete, on the macro side?
On the macro side, John, I don't know how we can talk more about the earnings. We've got it. It's a monster week. We've talked about that already. We've got these the biggest and the baddest in the tech world are coming out. Some of them tonight. It's going to be pretty interesting, but it's the bond yields, man. This 10-year has been absolutely incredible. In 1 month, it's gone from 3.7 all the way up to 4.33. Might even have hit higher than that for all I know, but it's just been on an unbelievable path to the upside, despite the fact that we are sitting right next to all-time highs in the NASDAQ, in the S&P, and in the Dow. So when you look at all of this, yes, it can be complicated sometimes, but the 10-year, I think, is really speaking volumes to me right now. the fact that the markets are still holding up as well as they are, despite the fact we've had this monstrous move in the 10-year, you'd expect to see a little bit of a transition. We're not seeing it.
No, we are not, Pete. You're right. Well, and I'll say for our fantastic futures, Pete, that you guys should all go take a look at Hard Assets Alliance, because Hard Assets Alliance, Pete and I, the reason that we're part of this is that it is the best way to invest in gold and silver. And why do I say that? Because they pay me? Yeah, that's part of it. But if you want to go to a place that gets bids and offers from 10 different dealers, or would you rather just go to one? Would you rather just wander into a numismatic store? In other words, gold coins, silver coins, rare coins, all that kind of stuff. Numismatics. Would you like to just wander into one of those and the guy or the gal sitting across the desk from you, they might be a perfectly nice person, but do you think they're giving you the highest bid? Do you think they're giving you the lowest offer? Now, if you do, then by all means, go to that person. But most of us don't have that kind of experience with a numismatic buy or sell. Instead, you go in there and you're going, gosh, I'm losing 7% on the way in, 7% on the way out. You know, stock's got to move, or this asset has to move 14% for me to break even. Well, with Hard Assets Alliance, and you can scan that right there with your phone, folks, you can buy or sell gold and silver. They will also store it for you if you choose to. They will deliver it to you, of course, if that's what you prefer. But Hard Assets Alliance, I can't say enough about them. Can't say enough about a place that does have buyers and sellers. And again, the fact that they are competing against each other rather than just having one person that you're buying or selling from means you're going to get a better price. So with that said, Pete, I'm going to focus on Bitcoin for a sec. And just like you and I mocked many of the people on TV that we were on with when they would say, oh, it's the law of large numbers. You can't trade. You can't be worth $1 trillion.
That's just such a bad way to communicate to people.
Yeah. You're trying to sound smart and you don't know what the law of large numbers is. And I could name names, but I'll be nice. Instead, a lot of people refer to Bitcoin and they go, oh, it's a Ponzi scheme. Well, clearly you don't understand what it is then. It is not a Ponzi scheme. A Ponzi scheme, of course, is where you give your money to somebody and they give a little piece of that back to a bunch of the early investors to make them happy so that everybody keeps giving them money and so forth. Well, somebody tell me who is the person I'm giving money to, Pete, in this Bitcoin so-called Ponzi scheme. There is no person. You are buying or selling Bitcoins or other digital assets, but I'm focused on Bitcoin today, Pete, because yes, the futures trade at the CME, and yes, Terry Duffy should have this show on the CME's website. Should, Terry. But what we've got going on, Pete, is they're saying BlackRock, the fact that they're so big in Bitcoin and these ETFs and the derivatives, which would be Terry Duffy and the CME group, that is why it's just continuing to skyrocket here. I'll also throw in that we have two presidential candidates. You vote for who you want, folks. But one of them only supports CBDC, that's central bank digital currencies. The other, Donald Trump, supports Bitcoin and diversified offerings of digital assets. So again, you decide who you're going to vote for. It's free country for now. But I'll say that there's one candidate that supports Bitcoin, and you can use this as a proxy for that guy winning because it's just going up, 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 up. What do you got, Pete?
It's been on an absolute tear, 72,000. I'm just going to say real quick, John, I talk about it all the time for all the right reasons. I think volatility is one of the things that you've got to look at every single morning. And I'm going to point this out today. It managed to hold on to volatility above 20 for all of 30 minutes today, and then it pulled right back again. So we are still finding ourselves exactly where we had started, which is we're looking like a lot closer to 18 to 19. You get up over 20, there is nothing sticky about it yet. At some point there will be, and it will take a certain news story, whatever that might be, to absolutely prop it up there and then maybe even drive much higher. But for right now, it has not been able to sustain anything over that level. A lot like silver did for a while, John, trying to get over 30. Once it got over 30, shoot, the other day we hit damn near 35. So we've had a big run in silver. You were talking about that earlier. Gold, silver, they have been participating in this rally pretty nicely. But volatility has a hard time holding anything over 20. And until it can hold and it's sticky, I think for now, you just got to keep that in mind as you're trading throughout the trading day.
Well, let's talk about Ford, Pete, because Ford Motor Company fell after the company warned that earnings this year will be at the low end of their prior forecast. We both know that that is what's known as lowering your guidance, which never is a positive for a stock. You can do a whole bunch of things positive, perhaps raise the dividend, beat expectations, announce a new product that people really want or whatever it is. But Ford did not do that. And you know what, Pete? I know you know this. We had unusual activity. We had put buying out in December. So there you see it. In September, they were buying the F, symbol for Ford, December 11 puts. They bought 8,500. That's 850,000 share equivalent. They paid 73 cents for them. Well, those went over $1 today. Ford Motor Company fell by about 8%. It's down more than that right now. And it could plumb all the way down to that $9.50 level, Pete. These options don't expire till the third Friday in December, folks. So it might not be over yet, the pain for Ford.
Yep, and they got a lot of pain, and they're getting a heck of a lot closer to that 52-week low, John. Down 10% today, just a little over $10 a share, and 950 is the 52-week low. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that. You know, it's all about forecast. We talk about it all the time. This is a prime example of that, John, because what did they do? They beat on the earnings. They put up 49. They were looking for 47. They beat on the revenue. They put up 46 billion. They were looking for a little bit north of 44, 45 billion. So they beat on that number. But that net income, that was something that dropped significantly. They lost about 300 million bucks there. That's not so great. And then you reduce your outlook. That is never going to be a good thing. It absolutely isn't a good thing right now for Ford. That's the reason it's tanking to the point where it is right now. And it isn't all that far from the 52-week lows. We're going to keep a close eye on this one. It's not a name, John, that I think you just flush out of your system, but they've got to prove something. They've got to prove that going forward, they can do something a little bit better than what they're seeing right now. And what they're seeing right now is not good. They're talking about net income and where that dropped. That's a problem. And the forecast is a huge problem right now for Ford.
Yeah. Again, very few companies can survive a forward guidance that is weaker than the street expected. Yeah. Let's talk about one that didn't do that, Pete. Let's talk about GLW. Corning, it's known as, of course, they make Gorilla Glass. Is it the iPhones? No, it is AT&T, because they're expanding their partnership with AT&T, their largest customer. That's the only thing that scares me, I must say, Pete. When you've got a customer as big as AT&T, sure, I want that customer, but that customer can basically dictate a lot of terms. And every once in a while, those customers get up and leave. I mean, Ericsson can do many of the same things that GLW does. But let's focus on the very positive things, that the deal is going to give them more than $1 billion for this fiber and cable to connect various high-speed internet and so forth and phone lines. I think this is a big deal for them. Obviously, stock's up 8% right now. And obviously, this is a positive going forward, that they didn't lower guidance, Pete. Instead, they raised it.
Yep, very impressive. This move with AT&T, you're right, John. I mean, there's a good and the bad about it. The bad would be if they decide that this deal is over with. But right now, they're just jumping into this deal. It's $1 billion deal. That's going to really suit very, very well for Corning right now, which is why it's up 7-8%. It's a new 52-week high. That's all very impressive. The earnings year over year are up 20%. That's a big number. But the $1 billion deal, that is what really stands out. And yeah, it could be nerve-wracking if something changes in the future. I don't really project that right now, John. I look at this as something where the two of them have got this partnership. They're going to work together. They finally were able to have some profits after a long time of not having profits, almost 2 years. And this looks like a pretty strong quarter, and the quarters ahead look even better. So I think there's a lot of reasons to be very bullish, despite the fact 52-week highs. I'm not worried about that. I'm not concerned about that. I think this is a stock that has far more room to the upside because of this partnership.
Well, what about PayPal, Pete?
Yeah.
Because here's one that we kind of were hoping for some good news. No, we did not have unusual activity on either side, puts to the downside or calls to the upside. But shares dropped the most in almost 9 months because the firm's Q4 revenue forecast was short of analyst expectations. Again, this is right back to Ford. You're lowering guidance going forward. So people are saying, let me take some profits here. The good news, if there is any, Pete, is that the stock has recovered about $3 from a pre-market sell-off that took it below 87. Nowhere near the 52-week low, which is $50, but still a pretty bad report for PayPal today.
Yeah, and again, this is the forecast. But to your point, John, and one of the things that I looked at on this one was, okay, yes, guidance is the reason that they're selling. Otherwise, if you take a look at the earnings, they were $1.20. They were looking for $1.07. That wasn't so bad. But nope. The revenue growth is just very, very weak right now. But on top of that, there are a couple of positive things that are going on right now. The transactions were up 9%. The repurchase of $1.8 billion worth of stock, that I think is something bullish. The stock was hit pretty hard, but now it's gained back a little bit. I look at this one, John, and I'm thinking, you know what? It should have probably been down significantly more, but I think there was enough good things to pull out of this one, even though the guidance was bad, which is why it's still in the red. But I think this is a name that's not that far away from maybe turning that corner and pressing on that 52-week high as people digest what the guidance was, but also look at all the various numbers that were positive, because there were plenty of positive numbers here. I like what we're seeing. I think PayPal's probably too cheap. They got competition, but they're up for the challenge.
I would say you're right, Pete. They do look like they're up for the challenge. And, the fact that every company has at least once a year, almost always, has at least once a year a time when they don't give positive guidance, when they have to pull back from the guidance because of one reason or another. Could be they're going to be spending on factories. That's not the case with a company like PayPal, of course. But whatever the reason, they can all of a sudden decide they're not going to build that factory. Again, not the case in PayPal. But I think that this is a good company, a solid company that I would buy on weakness, just as you described. All right, let's talk about VFC Corp, Pete, because this is the company that's the parent company of Vans, among others, and Vans is a strong driver for them. We had unusual activity in it just yesterday. I covered it on 3 at 3. The stock was 17.27. They were buying the 1750 calls that expire on Friday. Well, look at the stock. It hits a new 52-week high over 2170. Look at that spike to the upside there, folks. And guess what? Those calls that people were buying for that little bit of money, well, they went from 94 cents to a 400% profit on that move, Pete. So I'd say that's a pretty nice move. And again, if you guys want to get some of that, you got to be a subscriber if you want to trade like Pete and you want to trade, whoops, sorry, wrong side, Pete. If you want to trade like Pete, you want to trade like John, you want to take advantage of many of these calls like Ford, well, you got to be a subscriber. Go on over to marketrebellion.com. You can see all about that. What do you got for VFC, Pete?
Yeah, you know what, John? They're doing so many things right. You've got to be impressed with what they're doing. That's why it's going through the 52-week highs. It's why it's up, 26% or something like that, John, I think. Or at least it's been that high. I think when they go in there and they've got a lot of things that are going right, but they're still willing to be very, very aggressive. So they have cost savings that they're doing, and that's going to help the profits by about $300 million. They're selling some of the non-core businesses as well. Now, these guys also have Timberland. They also have North Face. This is a really, really interesting company that I think is doing things the right way. I think the way the CEO is handling this company and moving and shifting, and you also said they've got Vans. These are big, bad brands. These are, and when I say bad, I mean in a good way. These are brands that everybody knows. They seem to be almost everywhere. I like what we're seeing out of this company. I don't think this is over. I think this is a company that still has room to the upside, John. But obviously, that a lot of that has to do with how is the economy. If the economy is at least okay, which is kind of where I put it right now, I would say that these guys are going to absolutely prosper in the next couple of quarters, which is why the stock is ripping the way it is. And I think it's going to go higher than this.
Well, I know there's a certain friend of ours, Pete, that I'll tweet out later that is frequently on with Liz Clayman and/or Charles on the Fox Business Network, folks. And he's a hedge fund manager. I'll be tweeting him out. You'll see it. Made a really nice call when I was with him in January, and he's been spot on as this stock just continues to move in the direction that he thought. You might recall that, folks, a week ago, we were talking about somebody downgrading this stock. Well, 52-week low is $11. If you were in at $11, you've more than doubled your money on a trade that, remember, Pete, there's only the big seven. There's only those magnificent seven.
There's only 6 or 7 names that move, John. I mean, listen to the guys on TV. There's 7 names. That's it. 7 names. Well, except for Lilly, except for I could give up 70 names that have had a huge year right now. So those that have missed out have really missed out.
Yes, they have. Well, Pete, missing out right now, Yankees fans. Woo. And if you were holding on to some tickets, folks, you're probably not real happy because the value of those tickets is heading lower than the value of those bets on Kamala for president. So let's take a look at Dodgers Yankees. Pete, what do you got?
Well, we hadn't touched it at all, John, and that's on me. I pick these things out sometimes, and I think for the right reasons. But now it's gotten to the point where is this going to be a sweep? I mean, are you going to start having brooms coming out there to Yankee Stadium? Because the Dodgers are doing it right, John. It's amazing. Ohtani, the guy has an issue with his shoulder, which is a dislocated shoulder, by the way. He's still out there. He still can play. The guy's an absolute freak show. The manager talked about him and said, you know what? I'm encouraged by what he looks like right now. And yet they've got Mookie Betts. They've got all these various players. They got that kid, Freddie Freeman, John, who, well, all he did was in game 1 was, well, a walk-off grand slam. I mean, what the heck? Why not? They've been incredible. This has been a great run. The Dodgers sure look good. I'm not saying it's over for the Yankees. I hope it's not. I mean, you'd like to see a little bit more competition to this whole thing. Although if you're the Dodgers, you want to sweep them. I mean, you don't even want to come back to LA for this one. You want to sweep them. But I'll tell you what, it's been fun to watch. It's actually had some close games. Let's be honest. Game 1, what was it, 10 innings, John? I think there was a 6-3 win by the Dodgers because of that walk-off grand slam. I mean, how many guys get an opportunity to do that and then come through? So I would say that people are pretty excited. You've got both coasts, so you've got it all. You've got the viewership. Major League Baseball could not have gotten luckier than what they've got. The only way they could have would be if this turns into a little bit more of a challenge. And maybe it goes 5, maybe it goes 6, whatever. But right now, the Dodgers look absolutely unbeatable the way they're playing. And it's a pretty fun World Series because of that, unless you're a Yankees fan. What do you think of this one, John?
Well, like you said, Pete, I loved it when Freeman had that walk-off grand slam. I wasn't rooting against the Yankees. I wasn't really rooting for the Dodgers. I was just rooting for a great game, and we got one. And he came running over to his dad in the stands, Pete. And that was a great moment because he said, my dad would pitch me batting practice, day after day after day. So that was pretty damn cool, I thought. Shohei, I think he is, a gift to baseball, a gift to the MLB and the Dodgers, of course. The guy was languishing down there with the Angels, and then the Dodgers smart enough to pick this guy up, even though he was going to have to sit the year out from pitching. And all he did was steal, 50-plus bases, 50-plus home runs. I mean, the guy is just a phenom. It's an exciting thing to watch. 6'4", 230 pounds. You've got Aaron Judge, who I also love, 6'6", 6'7". maybe
Maybe
Pete,
6, 8.
a monster. But that poor guy has not had a great series. Would be nice if he could have a couple big hits to maybe, send this thing back to LA or whatever, Pete. But yeah, this is not how the Yankees fans had hoped this would turn out. Nor was last night's game, Pete, with the Giants, where, I mean, for God's sake, I know you're covering it, but here they are, Pete. Again, just like we said about my Bears, you never let a guy get behind you, especially on a Hail Mary pass. Never, ever, 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 ever. Did I say never? So another thing you do is if you're lining up for a 2-point conversion, which they were, so that the next time, if they scored, they'd only have to kick the extra point to tie it instead of getting a 2-point conversion then. They line up for it, Pete, and the line doesn't move. The line never got the story, apparently. And so, the quarterback goes out, throws the ball. There's nobody there, and the whole freaking Steelers team mobs the guy.
Yeah, there's and that makes a lot of sense. By the way, I'll say real quick, Aaron Judge, the complimentary way that he treated in an interview about Ohtani, it just shows you what a class gentleman he is as well, John, because he's one of the best of all time himself. He's big as all get out, like you said. He's a huge human being who plays like his size. He's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. But as far as the game last night, John, it just shows you once again, even when you maybe don't have the same levels of talent, and actually they're probably more talented than the Giants, but what I wanted to hit on was this. Who's one of the, maybe one of the best coaches in the last couple decades, and I know we've had some great coaches in the NFL. Is Mike Tomlin the best? I know he doesn't have all the Super Bowls from New England. He's not Bill Belichick. He didn't have Tom Brady, but that's another issue. He didn't have Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. This guy has done it with or without quarterbacks. Now, he had a pretty damn good quarterback for a while, and they won with him. But, John, if you went through the list of quarterbacks for the Pittsburgh Steelers since Mike Tomlin took over, you would just go, really? That's absolutely amazing. How about this? 11 playoffs, 7 division titles, 3 AFC championships, 2 Super Bowls, and 17 consecutive non-losing seasons. Nobody has ever done that from start to finish as a head coach. Never have they had that he never has had a losing season. Now, you look at Belichick, he's had a great run, right? But he had some bad ones when he was at Cleveland, when he was, other places. But you take a look at what Tomlin has done, and the guy is just special. And I would like to point it out because the guys last night on TV did a great job with this. Mike Tomlin is unbelievable how much respect he gets from the players. I think it's all about his consistency, his discipline. He doesn't get in the midst of all the crap that goes on sometimes with the NFL. He just plays the game the right way, and he coaches it the right way. I've never heard a player ever be critical of Mike Tomlin, ever. Yeah. He used to be here with the Minnesota Vikings as a defensive coordinator. He got the job with the Pittsburgh Steelers. John, this guy is amazing. Is he one of the best, if not the best coach of all time because of the players that he's had and still had the success that he's had?
Yes, is the early answer, Pete. And the only guy that reminds me of him is Campbell with Detroit.
Yeah.
Because there are other great coaches. I really respect the Rams coach, Pete. I think he does a great job. Obviously, Andy Reid. And Andy Reid is building up a resume that's a lot closer to Belichick's. But he's also got a phenom quarterback. Like you said, Roethlisberger, very good quarterback. And that's why they have 2 Super Bowls, because he was there for that. And like you said, it's been a revolving door at quarterback since him. But now Russell Wilson, obviously a very talented quarterback that, Sean Payton couldn't figure out how to use him. And maybe he brought a little of the hate on himself from the way he was in the locker room when he was at Denver, Pete. That's what we hear anyway. I wasn't in there, but that's what you hear. I think at Pittsburgh, he's a whole different guy. I see him shaking hands, high-fiving, doing all kinds of stuff like that. And they got a pretty decent backup in Fields as well. Yeah, I have to give you credit. Mike Tomlin, he is the man. He's both smash mouth football because his defense, that's what they do. And he's just always up to the challenge, whoever and whatever kind of game it is, if it's a close game or if it's a blowout. He's up for the challenge of keeping the players focused, getting the players off the field if indeed they are blowing somebody out, Pete, because why risk them on games and things like that? Some other coaches aren't as smart, and we see all the time players getting hurt that shouldn't have been on the field in the fourth quarter, but, the coach was a dip. So, yeah, Mike Tomlin, fantastic coach. He'll be in the Hall of Fame too.
One thing that doesn't hurt for Mike Tomlin is having TJ Watt playing left defensive end, coming at those quarterbacks. Even last night, he's added to his 100-plus sacks, John. Last night, he got in there, got a strip sack. He got another sack. He got a fumble recovery. I mean, the guy is absolutely unbelievable to watch coming off that edge. And, just like his brother, he's one of the best I've ever seen. These guys, you've got the Bosa brothers and then you've got the Watt brothers. It's absolutely amazing because those four are probably somewhere in the pantheon of greatest defensive ends in football history. Let's be honest. These guys are all freaks and they're all athletic. They keep themselves in shape, and they are a good reason why those defenses are much better at places like Houston, like Arizona when he was out there, like San Diego, like we got at Pittsburgh. I mean, all these guys are absolutely amazing. And it just shows you that Mike Tomlin, like we were talking about, that guy's a gamer. He's a coach that I would love to have had the opportunity to play for.
Well, Daniel Jones, Pete, the quarterback for the Giants, he should sue his team for lack of support. I mean, there were so many times when, like you say, TJ Watt is a special player, but, you've got to give the guy a breath, a chance to throw the ball. When he had the chances, he did pretty well. Did he get sacked? Yes. And that's on the D lineman. It wasn't that he held the ball for, a count of 4 or something like that. There was just a jailbreak on that guy. And again, when they lined up for the 2-point conversion and the line didn't even get the call for whatever reason, there's no excuse for that. There really is no excuse for that. I guess that's why the Giants suck. Sorry, New York fans, but they suck almost as bad as the Jets suck. All right. Well, we promise we won't suck tomorrow. If you join us tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time, folks, we'll bring you the best stocks that we can find, the top 4 stocks. We'll bring you Macro Minute and Fantastic Futures brought by our friends over at hardassets.alliance.com. That's hard assets, plural, alliance.com. Check them out, folks, for gold and silver. We'll be back tomorrow at 1.